The M-Series can be used to monitor the ECG and, when available, other parameters such as SpO2 and EtCO2. The ECG may be acquired through ECG electrodes, multifunction electrode pads, or through external defibrillation paddles. For ECG monitoring, the signal is acquired using a 3-lead patient cable or the optional 5-lead cable. During pacing, an ECG cable is required for monitoring. When using the 3-lead cable, leads 1, 2, and 3 are available. When using the 5-lead cable, leads 1, 2, 3, AVR, AVL, AVF, and V are available. The lead button automatically adapts to the patient cable selected. Proper application and placement of electrodes are essential for high-quality ECG monitoring. Markings and color codes for the different lead sets are shown in your operator's guide. Plug the patient cable into the ECG input connector at the back of the unit. The selector switch should be in the monitor or on position. Press the lead button until the desired lead is selected. If the ECG lead-off message appears, inspect the ECG electrodes, lead wires, and connections. If the check pads or pour pad contact message appears, inspect the MFE pads, cable, and connections. The ECG size is automatically set at turn-on. Press the size button to adjust the waveform. The QRS beeper volume can be adjusted by using the speaker button and appropriate soft keys. Default heart rate limit alarms are 30 and 150 beats per minute, with alarms enabled. Preset limits, manually selectable, and auto limits of 80% and 120% of patient heart rate can be selected from the Set Alarm function soft keys. Complete information on alarms is available in the operator's guide. The printer documents the ECG with a 6-second delay and can be programmed to automatically run when an alarm or a defibrillation event occurs. Press the recorder button to start and stop the printer. ECG time, date, lead, size, and heart rate, and any other monitored parameters are documented. If pacing, the output current will be printed, and delivered energy will be printed when the defibrillator is discharged. Check the paper supply at the beginning of each shift. A red stripe along the top of the paper indicates that the paper supply is low and should be replaced. A check recorder message appears on the display when the printer is activated without paper. Consult your operator's guide for more detail on ECG monitoring and recording. This section is for personnel trained in manual defibrillation, advanced cardiac life support, or similar protocols. First, let's look at manual defibrillation with paddles. For emergency defibrillation with paddles, first turn the selector switch to defib. The unit defaults to paddles as the ECG source when it is turned to the defib setting, and paddles are connected to the universal cable. Observe the ECG by checking the monitor, or use the paddles to quickly view the patient's rhythm. If defibrillation is required, apply defibrillation gel over each electrode uniformly. Verify the selected energy level and press the charge button on the apex paddle or on the front panel of the unit. Apply the paddles firmly to the chest. Rub the paddles against the skin to ensure good contact. After charging to the selected energy level, the charge indicator on the apex paddle will light. The charge ready tone will sound, and the energy display will show ready and the selected energy level. Verify the energy level, warn all persons to stand clear prior to discharge, and observe all other safety procedures.
Clear.
Using your thumbs, depress and hold both shock buttons simultaneously until the energy is delivered to the patient. The display will show the amount of energy delivered. The procedure for using multifunction electrode pads in manual mode is similar to that used with paddles. Attach the multifunction electrode pads to the patient according to the directions on the electrode packaging. Ensure that the multifunction electrode pads make good contact with the patient's skin and that they are not covering any part of the ECG electrodes. If the multifunction electrode pads are not making good contact, the messages "check pads" and "poor pad contact" will be displayed alternately and energy will not be delivered. Pressing the pads down can correct this problem. The ECG can be immediately observed. If defibrillation is required, press the charge button. Follow the same safety procedures as with the paddles. When the charge-ready tone sounds, the shock button will light up. Verify the selected energy level and discharge the unit by pressing and holding the shock button. When in the defib mode, synchronized cardioversion is available to synchronize discharge with the ECG R wave. The sync on-off is controlled by a soft key. ECG should be obtained via a patient cable, since it provides the best signal and lead selection. After pressing the soft key labeled sync, a marker will appear above each R wave to indicate where the discharge will occur. Verify the marker's location is appropriate and consistent with each beat. Use the lead and size button if necessary to establish consistent synchronization. Select the desired energy level. The word sync will appear next to the selected level. Using either paddles or multifunction pads, charge the defibrillator to the selected level. Verify the ECG waveform is stable and deliver the synchronized discharge by depressing both paddles' discharge buttons, or if using multifunction pads, the shock button on the front panel. Press and hold the buttons long enough for an R wave to trigger a discharge.
Clear.
Once energy is delivered, the unit will automatically return to defib mode unless configured differently. Internal defibrillation is available using Zoll autoclavable handles and electrodes. Autoclavable internal handles are only for use in the manual mode. They do not operate in the advisory or semi-automatic modes. When using internal handles, the defibrillator automatically limits its energy output to a maximum of 50 joules. The defibrillator is charged by pressing the charge button on the front panel and discharged by pressing either the shock button on the front panel or the discharge button incorporated in the internal handle sets. To test your internal paddles, simply place both paddle surfaces together, keeping your hands off of the electrodes. Charge the device to 30 joules, press the shock button, and note the Test OK message that appears to indicate energy has been delivered to the assembly. Complete information on internal handles, including procedures for cleaning and sterilization, is available in your operator's guide. This section covers operation and advisory mode. ECG analysis capability identifies shockable rhythms when using multifunction electrode pads. Verify the patient is unconscious, not breathing, and pulseless. Begin CPR, request assistance, and remove clothing covering the patient's chest. Apply the MFE pads according to directions on the package. Pads may be applied in an anterior-posterior or anterior-anterior position. To use the advisory feature, the selector button must be turned to defib. The unit will display defib 200 joules selected on the monitor. Press the Analyze button to begin analysis of the patient's ECG rhythm and to detect any shockable rhythm. Analyzing ECG will be displayed while the patient's ECG is analyzed. Once the analysis is completed, the unit indicates whether or not a shock is advised. When a non-shockable rhythm is detected, a No Shock Advised message will be displayed. When a shockable rhythm is detected and a shock-advised message is displayed, charge the unit as indicated by the prompts. If the automatic analyze and charge option is enabled, the unit will automatically charge to the pre-configured or user-selected energy setting. The shock button will light up, and a continuous tone will sound. Warn all persons to stand clear.
Clear.
Press and hold the shock button on the front panel until energy is delivered to the patient. Confirmation of delivered energy will appear for approximately 5 seconds. Review your operator's guide for all advisory function messages and related procedures in advisory mode. This section covers the use of the M-Series non-invasive pacing capability. Apply ECG electrodes to the patient as shown previously. Apply the multifunction electrode pads following the directions on the pouch. Pacing is best accomplished with anterior-posterior electrode positioning. Turn the selector switch to pacer. The pacer output will automatically be set to 0 milliamps, MA, and the pacer rate at 70 pace pulses per minute, ppm. Prior settings will be retained if previously set and the unit was turned off for 10 seconds or less. Set pacer rate to a value 10 to 20 ppm higher than the patient's intrinsic rate. If no intrinsic rate exists, use 100 ppm. Increase the pacer output until stimulation is effective. Observe the pacing stimulus marker on the display or strip chart to verify that it is well positioned in diastole. It is important to recognize when pacing stimulation has produced a ventricular response, capture. Capture must be assessed by checking both the ECG and peripheral pulse to ensure appropriate circulatory support of the patient. Electrical capture is determined by the presence of a widened QRS complex, the loss of underlying intrinsic rhythm,